He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I just wondered if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And then I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we played the summer, and you playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. And you pick up, you saw me pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and I learned that fixing back. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship. It's time for the Houston Show, your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
On your 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. The Martin Houston Show fan page at Martin Houston Live on Facebook, at Martin Houston 35 on Twitter. We're live and local and ready to get things going on this Wildcard Wednesday. Want to invite you to be a part of the conversation in the program at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904. The Taco Casa hotline is open for business. So let us hear from you this morning. I'd love to have you a part of the program. Remember that this is a day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Good morning, Joe. How you doing, sir?
Oh, doing good today, Martin. Hanging in there on a Wednesday, halfway through the week already.
Almost halfway. I count halfway when I get off the show. No, just kidding. So, right? No, man, I still, every time I say the word right now, all I can think about is Alabama's defensive coordinator, Pete Golding, the right man. And the question I have for you today is Pete Golding, the right man for the job at the University of Alabama. Alabama is talented on defense. Which newcomers will be the difference makers for the University of Alabama? And it seems like the more we spend time, the more we talk, seems like Kool-Aid McKinstry is a guy that's going to with him, that we're talking more now about his physicality maybe than his athletic ability. Did you hear me, Joe?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you've kind of had some bad connection. I didn't realize you asked me a question. Well,
I was asking you that have you found it interesting that we're talking more about Kool-Aid McKinstry's physicality, and even other players are beginning to bring it up. We're talking about that as much more than we are his ball skill and his athletic ability.
Well, I think it just shows his mindset of being a defensive player. You know, most kids want to be an offensive player, scoring all the touchdowns. But if he's got that mentality of going up, what did Nick Saban say? He'll put his face in you. Is that it? That's a great skill to have. Not a normal trait for most corners.
Especially for a young corner. You're right. For a young corner, those guys like to be out on the island. They like to be, and it's not all that glamorous to be the guy sticking your face in there. But it seems to be that Kool-Aid McKinstry is that type of player. And I'm going to tell you, if he has that part of his game, it's going to be extremely hard to keep him off the field and him not being the guy at the beginning. At some point, I'm not saying he's going to start game one, but it's going to be awful hard for him not to be the man at some point down the stretch. So that's what we want to talk about today. This defense, Pete Golding embracing the challenge of getting Alabama's defense back to the level that we can get there. And of course, I ask you the question: is Pete Golding the right man for the job? Will he move this defense back to the level that he's embracing? I mean, Pete Golding seems to be embracing the level of defense expectations that you should have. Offenses have evolved and improved and gotten better, but Pete Golding saying the goal remains to allow the opponents 13 or less points. And Alabama wants to be a team that's not just number one in the SEC, but the number one defense in the nation. So what are the areas you think Alabama needs to improve in if they're going to be that type of defense? That's what we want to talk about today. What are their main areas or parts of defense they have to improve if we're going to see them reach that number one level? Speaking of number one, we can talk about the USA Today coaches poll. Alabama, the clear number one team there. Is that, how crazy is that considering the number of players that Alabama lost, the fact that they, when you look at the offensive side of the ball, and how many guys they have coming back, they're still, by the coaches poll, the clear favorite. And out of the 65 votes, only 2 going to someone other than Alabama. And those 2 did not go to Clemson. Those 2 went to a future SEC opponent. I mean, not opponent, but member, and that's the Oklahoma Sooners. So Alabama's sitting at number one. So we'll break down that poll as well. And I have another question if we get to, can B-Rob be the next great Bama back? And if so, what things, what does he have to do? What areas does he need to improve? Or will it ride upon that revamped offensive line? I love it. The slim trim Evan Neal still pushing 350 pounds, Joe, but he lost 15 pounds. So what does a more athletic, better fit Evan Neal mean at left tackle? I know one guy that's loving life right now, at least from his blind side, and that would be Bryce Young with the Evan Neal evolution. So we got a couple comments from Curtis Lewis on the question, is it possible that Pete Golding is the right guy for the job? He says no. Yes, Bama is talented on defense, but just like NASCAR, the best car is only as good as the driver. Wow. Yes, Bama is talented on defense, but just like NASCAR, the best car is only as good as the driver. That's Curtis Lewis responding to the question is Pete Golding the right guy to get Bama back to dominant defense? Love to hear your thoughts on that. 342-9904. You can call us on the Taco Casa hotline. Also, Curtis Lewis said holding teams to 14 points is not realistic, and Pete must improve red zone and third down defense. Also, communication must be crisper. So he's telling us not just is Pete not the right guy, but whoever the right guy is has some areas that we have to improve in, and that's red zone defense, third down defense, and communication must be crisper. So those are some of the things that we need to look at on the Bama side of the defense. I'd love to get your thoughts. Please chat us up on social media or call us on our Taco Casa hotline at 205-342-9904. And let me hear your thoughts on several questions, but question we're dealing with right now is Pete Golding the guy? Joe, I want you to comment on that on the other side, and also what areas does Alabama defense have to improve in if we're going to reach that level, a level that Curtis Lewis says is unrealistic in terms of holding the opponents to 13 points or not. Love to hear from you on the Martin Houston Show, the Sound of Bama Sports, your show, your team. Come on up next right here on the Martin Houston Show.
One of Google, and I'm getting leads every day. Growing a business. Yes. Just needs help finding more customers, then Townsquare can help. Go to mylocalcustomers.com for a free competitive analysis that will show you how the most successful businesses grow and how you can do it too. These strategies are simple, and we can show you how this. Be one of the first businesses to sign up, and you'll receive $500 in free advertising on this radio station. If your business does great work, but just needs help finding more customers, then Townsquare can help. Visit mylocalcustomers.com. That's mylocalcustomers.com. Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather. Another hot, humid summer day today, partially sunny with scattered showers and thunderstorms developing, most of them this afternoon and this evening. The high today 93, tonight's low 73. Tomorrow morning sunshine, scattered storms by afternoon, the high 92. I'm James Spann of the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 75 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith at Stockmark Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising, and so much more. basically any and everything you need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at southmarkdesign.com.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. Thank you so much for making us a part of your morning routine, your morning drive. We're so glad to be back with actual football. We're talking about this team, not hyperboles, but the actual team getting out there making a difference. In the first quarter there, we talked a little bit about Kool-Aid McKinstry, and his physicality seems to be making as much noise as his athletic ability. And if he is a physical corner with his ball skill, and I think he has elite ball skills, especially having been a basketball player, I think that helps even more. Does Jalen Armour Davis and the other guys have a chance of keeping him off the field? Maybe early on, but he could. I mean, with the progression, we saw it happen last year with Malachi Moore in the way he just continued to play, and we heard it talked about early on, and it just never changed, and it just kept getting better to him and Brian Branch were the two guys battling it out. Malachi Moore seems to be squarely putting himself in that type of conversation. We're also talking about Pete Golden being the right man for the job. Curtis Lewis doesn't seem to think so. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you. And what areas does this Alabama defense have to improve in if they're going to be successful? Pete Golden's accepting and embracing the challenge of being a great defense, and does he have the piece parts? Was it or is it an elite linebacker like Tua Tua that Tua, I get it right. Has with this defense, coming where he comes from, has been good for us. And of course, Will Anderson talked about him yesterday and the fact that he will get in your stuff. He actually said he'll step on your toes. Is that what Alabama's been missing the last couple of years on this defense? A dog at linebacker who knew the defense, understood the defense, led by example, and would get into other guys' stuff. Is that what we've been missing? So that's what we're talking about. We have Robert from Mobile that wants to get in on the conversation. Good morning, Robert. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Martin.
Hey, now.
Was he talking about Toto or somebody else? Who was he talking about?
Will Anderson was saying that about Toa, that he would get in your stuff. That his words were if you don't do it right, he leads by example, but he'll step on your toes if you're not doing what you're supposed to.
Oh yeah, there's no question about that. That's absolutely what Alabama's been needing for quite some time. As linebackers, unfortunately, Dylan Moses just couldn't evolve into that kind of a player, kind of a person. But
But yeah, we definitely needed that. And you answered the question is he the right guy? And I guess the answer is yeah, if he can get us back to elite. It's because right now Alabama has been flirting with. Everyone from saying this is the greatest football team of all time. It was the defense.
Right.
Now, we had 17 defense or 2016 defense or 2009-10 defense. No one would even hesitate for a second saying that was the greatest team of all time. The thing that kept holding them up was our defense. Now, go and have them playing at the elite level in the playoffs. The defense was playing at an elite level in the playoffs. I call 24 points for Ohio State an elite defense doing this job. They're going to hold the Ohio State to 13 points. That'd be that. Goodness gracious, that's just insane. Especially with the rule change the way things are today. So, but his numbers was again, I'm a numbers guy. Like that's how you got to quantify what you want your defense to do. 13 points a game for every team. For most teams, you're not going to hold the elite teams to 13 points a game. But but the average team should not get more than 13 points on you. If you do that, you're doing your job. Your defense is elite. Now but you can't give anybody 40 plus.
And Robert, that's the question, because when you look at that number they're throwing out there, 13, that's like the average. Alabama led the SEC last year in defense as far as points and stuff. You know what I mean? We were like number one, but did you feel that way because of Ole Miss, Florida? I mean, did it make you feel that way about that defense? Even when we were shutting people out or minimizing them, did you ever feel like Alabama had an elite defense? Because the reality of it is, all but a couple of games last year, the defense dominated, but it didn't feel the same. And why is that?
Exactly. It would be the 40 points to Mississippi. It would be the 40 points to Florida State. Now, had they held both those teams to under 30, I'm still and do everything else to everybody else, then you start to feel like it's elite. Okay, but this offense is, okay, just don't give them 30. But it was the looking to the sideline, which hopefully, man, you will stop that when the other team can score on you. The defense is still looking at the sideline where the play is just barely getting in before they snap the ball. It was things like that, wide open running backs out of the backfield, wide open tight end. That's what. Okay, you're not elite when that keeps going on.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the question: is if this defense only has a couple of games where teams get those types of points, because we're going to run into some high-powered offenses, but is it the fact that team is executing at an extremely high level, while you're executing at a high level, or I don't even remember the kid's name, but he's still running down the middle of the field in Mississippi. I mean, I'm like, somebody cover the tight end. He's going to the middle of the field, and he's going to run straight down the field, and the quarterback's going to throw it to him. Cover him, So it wasn't that, because I mean, like, listen, you're going to have some elite offenses that you're going to run into in today's college game. And then you're going to have those games where you just dominate. But when a team is scoring points like they did against Alabama, some of that was that they were executing, and some of it was that we weren't executing. And if we're executing and they're just better, how an announcer says, man, that was good defense, just better offense. In those two games, I didn't feel like that was said as much. Sometimes it was like, oh, wow, he's wide open. He's uncovered, busted coverage, missed tackle. And those, to me, are the types of things that we have to fix if we're going to be an elite defense. I'm not even as worried about. Go ahead.
It would look like Big 12 defenses in games like that. And it wasn't like, when the offense wasn't doing a whole lot and kept going 3 and out, the defense had to play 99 plays or something like that. There wasn't the offense doing that to you. The offense was doing their job. I would hold the ball, and we would still watch the team just march down the field on you. And the offense kept you off the field for almost 5 minutes.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's different. And to me, if they hold a team to 7, if the average is 17 to 20, I still think you can view them as an elite defense. But one of the areas that a couple areas that we have to get better in, Curtis Lewis said, red zone and third down and communication, and all 3 of those areas, you can't argue with. Red zone, if you let them get to the red zone, you have to play defense that gets them, keeps them to a field goal and not a touchdown. And,
Every time we start third and forever, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18. We're good Ole Miss game, and they got close enough that they had to go for it on 4th down.
Yeah, and that's now. I will say Pete Golden did mention this, and some of our third down efficiency was a result, not the 3rd and longs, but the third. The third and 3 to 4 yards, Robert, is a much harder ask than you realize, because when it's 3rd and 3 to 4 yards, every play in the playbook is open. And if they're getting a 3rd and 3 to 4, that means that you're not doing good on 1st and 2nd down a lot of times. So our run defense has to be better, and some of our run defense, the problem was poor tackling. How many times we have a guy where we look like we had him what they call dead to right, and then he still would end up getting 4 or 5 yards. And then all of a sudden it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and they're extending their drive. Great comment by Curtis Lewis that says an elite defense dictates the game, not reacts to the offense. And I would agree that is something that we probably have not seen as much as anything. And maybe that's the characteristic, Robert, that we're missing from an elite defensive standpoint, of why it doesn't feel like we were an elite defense, even though we were the best in the SEC last year. And one of the top defenses in the country is because we were not dictating a lot of times. It seems like we were a lot of times reacting to what they wanted to do and trying to stop what they wanted to do.
And one last thing, also the garbage touchdowns and points at the end of games. Goodness gracious, guys, we please just cut those out. They are so frustrating to watch. I mean, it's a blowout. It was, yeah, but it's like the Auburn game. Goodness gracious, you could have kept Auburn out there playing end zone.
So you're of the mindset, if they're down and they're almost out, go ahead and choke them out. Don't let them have it. Don't let them have anything that they can build on for the next year or the next week, right?
That's not just my attitude. That's the attitude of Nick Saban too.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Great talking with you.
Appreciate you, Robert. Have a good one. All right. Just to we also had some people commenting about B-Rob. If you want to talk about him as well. Got a very interesting Curtis Lewis that's on chat this morning. You're welcome to do so on one of our social media outlets, or you can call us at 205-342-9904. The phone lines are open through the break, so give us a call. I want to remind you that in the 4th quarter, we will catch up with Scotty, Hollins, Executive Director of Blueprint Ministries.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Traffic for Wednesday morning. We do have some overnight pavement going on over the in the state of Maine, just east of McFarland, so you can expect delays. Townsend Nissan has an amazing selection of new cars, trucks, SUVs, and they really need you to see them. I'm Captain Ray.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Overflow Express Wash. Their mission is to provide great customer service with a showroom clean car and an exceptional customer service experience. They have the basic car wash that starts at $7, but you need to check out the premium wash packages, which start as low as $12 and go up to $20. They also have a membership wash club that you can get for starting at $23.99, going up to $39.99. In other words, just double the regular premium package, drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and I keep our cars looking good inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard, right next door to Alabama 1, or look forward to making you a part of their team.
BMW of Tuscaloosa welcomes the latest wave of students back to town. We love cheering on the home team, and we're excited for the first kickoff later this month. You know what else we're excited for? The starting lineup of new 2021 BMW vehicles and all-star pre-owned BMWs we've recently drafted. For all the recent grads out there, BMW wants you to make your mark in style. Recent college grads can get $1,000 off a new BMW through the BMW College Grad Program. Stop in or visit BMWofTuscaloosa.com today.
This is a big deal. Now at healthcare.gov, millions more people can get affordable health coverage. Due to the COVID relief law, 4 out of 5 customers can get a plan for under $10 a month with financial help. From doctor visits to preventive services to prescription drugs, these are quality plans. You can do this. Sign up by August 15th plan.
Nick Saban the process. John said that everything rises and falls on it, and Wooden said it's what you learn after you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our pep talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com. That's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. I love it when you guys get up and at 'em and get going with me on the show. This is a Hump Day edition on Wildcard Wednesday. Love it when you guys are calling in as well as chatting up, interacting with us. I love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. We've had quite a few in regards to Pete Golding, this defense, what it takes. Also, we got some comments regarding B-Rob as a running back. If we don't get to that conversation,
Morning, sir. How's it going?
good. What's up?
But the thing about it is the NASCAR team the owner of the team puts the best driver in that seat. So it's something about Pete Golding. The man would be gone already.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
Well, is it that Nick Saban does not want to have to train another one? And I think I think Robert from Mobile said that our defense has been good enough, and we're wanting elite. And Nick Saban has realized, because the reality of it is, if you go back to his earlier national championships, was it that our defense was elite and our offense was good enough to win? And now Nick Saban has flipped that, but we're wanting to see these elite offenses that Alabama produces while seeing an elite defense. And Nick Saban realizes good enough is what it takes. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing about it is, even on those elite defenses, y'all kind of touched on it a little bit with a few callers. When we had those elite defenses, the one thing we're missing over the last 1 or 2, 3 years maybe, is that coach on the field, that elite person. You said Henry, I guess, Toa.
The way I say it.
That gets into people's faces.
George, how are you?
Good. Just a couple of comments. One, I think that the last 2 or 3 years, we've had decent talent, but we haven't had the depth of defense that can play 60, 70, or 80 and 90 snaps. And now it really seems like we got the defensive line that can do that. Another thing is that our defensive line has been very young. In today's defense, you got to have depth of line that can get after the quarterback. Point being, Anderson was a freshman last year, did a fantastic job, but when you have to depend on a freshman for rushing the quarterback, that tells me that our depth is not what it's supposed to be. And from what I understand now, we got 7, 8, 9 guys on the defensive line that can get the job done. Another thing the last couple of years, not last year, but we've lost through transfer or whatever, some of those top-notch recruits that we thought were top-notch that transferred out. When that happens, that you kind of it kind of gives you a void on the depth. Another thing, the point that the other caller made, if Nick Saban wants him as our coach, defensive coach, that I want him to, because he make many mistakes. But I just really think the lack of depth has really hurt us. Plus, the defense knows that the offense is going to bail you out. I think that's the mindset that, you get into when you do have an offense. I think that, stopping the person every time, although you want to, the mindset is not there. We're going to score 40, 50 points. And that's kind of my comments. And thank you so much for taking my call, and have a great day.
All right. Thanks, George. Appreciate that comment, and I'll address George and D Nunn from the prior call as well. The depth is huge, communication is huge. Having the dog out there, I think, is all of those things are huge when it comes to what Alabama is going to be able to do from a defensive side of the ball. And as we've gone through the program with the different callers and chatters and listeners, I'll come up with a list, Joe, of about 6 or 7 things that this defense needs to improve. So you have anything you want to add to that list of things this defense needs to do to get better? And
Martin, I think the defense is I think it's right in line with a lot of college football. I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier in the show about how difficult it is to hold teams to 14 points or less. I think what we're just experiencing is the shift in college football. I'm not obviously we'd love to go 3 and out and never give up a yard and never give up a point, but that's just not really realistic. I think the defense has really been on track over the last 2 years. I mean, you think 2 years ago in Pete Golding's first year, everybody wants to dog Pete Golding, but you're playing Christian Harris and Shane Lee. Christian Harris never played an inside linebacker in his life, and we all kind of understood the physical limitations behind Shane Lee. I think that Pete Golding has been, right on line. I'm sorry it's not Kirby Smart. I've known the Nick Saban defense for the last 10 years, kind of mode, but I think Golding is right in line. He talked about it on Sunday about the importance of getting stops and how the main thing from a defensive coordinator is to do the things to win the game. And how we got to improve in the red area. So you've hit on a lot of the areas where we want to improve on. I think that this year's defense is going to be pretty strong, and you've got depth at the linebacker position and a pretty good depth in the defensive front to where you're rotating guys. I think the defense is going to be pretty strong this year. I'm excited for it.
yeah, I think that the defense can be really, really good. Joe, I think you remember how you and I talked about how we felt about the offense, but when you really looked at the numbers, it was really more about how we felt about it versus what the production was. You remember that when you first started doing my show? Um, and sometimes I think that's what it is about this defense. We're looking for a certain feel, um, and you're gonna have your Ole Misses. You're gonna have your Florida. Florida was a really, really good offensive team last year. Only probably second to Alabama. So if we did what we did to teams offensively, you could kind of expect a little bit of that. And then, of course, the other guy that had an explosive offense against us, Joe, was a guy that we applaud for becoming the type of offensive juggernaut that we are, and that's Lane Kiffin. So in some senses, that is why. And because we have another segment we have to get to, and we have a caller, I'm not going to list my areas to improve yet. I may just save those and kick them down to Friday so that we have time to get to Tom. Tom, you're in with the Martin Houston Show. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, Martin, how are you this morning? I won't be long.
You're fine.
It's been great. It's been a great conversation this morning on defense. But when I hear all those comments, I agree with them. But at the same time, in my mind, Pete Golding's been here what, 3 years?
This would be his 4th year. 2 years as a coordinator, 1 as a defensive coach, 1 half as a defensive coach and half as a coordinator. So he has 2.5 years as coordinator.
Right. And the first year we were decimated with injuries, and then we lost Dylan last year at the beginning of camp in a COVID year or year
15th Street.
This is a metaphor for your business's journey. Sometimes it feels like the world is throwing everything it has at you, and to succeed, you need someone to guide you through. That's what Dell Technologies advisors do. They have the tech advice to help you navigate whatever challenges you're up against and get you safely to where you want to be. Call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL and do more with modern devices and Windows 10 Pro.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9. It's now time for our weekly catch-up with Scotty Hollins, Executive Director, Blueprint Ministries. We'll be adding him in just a moment, but until then, let's continue the conversation. I apologize for some technical difficulties this morning. We're working to keep getting better, and we'll keep improving on our side, and you hang with us so that we'll be ready to roll when Tide football season is in full swing. Most of the conversation today has been regarding our defense and what it means to have an elite defense. And D-Nun brought up something that I didn't really get to address, and I'd like to address that this morning as well. He was talking about that dog. When you look at a defense, sometimes it's about a feel. It's about emotion. Statistic wise, I don't think that Alabama is that far off. And if we had Golding as our defensive coordinator moving forward, I mean, if he was brand new, would we feel good about him versus having that he's coming in off of Kirby Smart and Jeremy Pruitt? Is the expectations too high? We'll kick that can down the road and continue that conversation on tomorrow and Friday as we roll closer to Alabama scrimmage. But we now have Scotty Hollins in with us this morning. Good morning, Scotty. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. It's now time for the Johnson Marshall Dentistry Christian Moment of the Week with Scotty Hollins, Executive Director of Blueprint Ministries. I'll kick it to you to take us where the Lord leads you this morning.
All right. We're going to continue our series called God is Bigger. And again, just as a little intro, the reality is we're facing, so many different adversities in each of our lives, so many different difficulties. Again, I started off last time by saying, hey, something I've heard is, hey, for most of us, we're either in a storm, we just got out of one, or we're about to go into one. So you got to kind of learn to dance in the rain. So when you think about just all the adversity, all the difficulty, all the struggles that we face, a lot of times we can see those things as bigger than us. And in many cases, those things can be bigger than us. And so when they become bigger than us, a lot of times it causes us these struggles, difficulties. They can be people, they can be situations, they can be circumstances, but they can cause us to worry. And so the encouragement with this series is when we see God as bigger, it causes us to worship. And so you see the situation is bigger, it causes you to worry. But if you can, see, the situation is bigger than you, that leads to worry. But seeing God as bigger than the situation causes you to worship. Looking at Joshua, the first chapter, and in this situation, again, in our God is Bigger series, we see Joshua in a really tough situation. So Joshua has been Moses' assistant for a long time, a number of years. And so Moses has just passed, and God speaks to Joshua. He says, Joshua, Moses, my servant, is dead. And it's kind of a next man up mentality. But you're the new guy. You're the guy that I'm going to use to lead the children of Israel into the promised land. All right. So, but what you see here, though, is I want you to really think about what what Moses, what Joshua had to be experiencing just when he's hearing these words. His mentor, his leader, his guy who is poured into him, and the guy he looked up to, and the guy that was an amazing leader was Moses, and he has now passed. So to some degree, he has to feel some pressure in terms of having to fill this guy's shoes. On the other hand, so that's as he looks backwards, it's like, dang, I gotta fill his shoes. As he looks forward, he has to be a little bit intimidated because he's got to fight 31 different groups of giants. Okay, so as he stands right there, Martin, he's got to say, man, goodness gracious, this spot, this situation is way bigger than me because there's no way I can lead as well as Moses. And then how in the world am I going to lead over 1 million people to fight 31 different groups of trained, monstrous giants? And so in that situation, God speaks to him knowing exactly where he is. And he says, hey, I want you to be strong and courageous. Here's why, though, Martin. I want you to be strong and courageous because I am with you. Be strong and courageous because I am with you. And for assumption for us is to, I guess, to understand that he said be strong and courageous because I'm with you. And then we could almost add, because I'm bigger. I'm bigger than all of that, everything that you're going to face. I'm bigger than, any adversity you're going to face. Every one of those giants, I'm way bigger. And so the bottom line is, I want your strength and your courage to be contingent upon the fact of my presence. I will be with you. And so keep your eyes on me. Trust that I am bigger. Guess what, Martin? When we know who God really is, when we really understand that he is really the God of the scriptures, what we see him do in the pages of scripture, he is willing, able and willing to do in our lives and to protect us. And so I like to end, as I'm doing this series, I like to end it with this, with each week, and that's this. Guess what? Your sin is bigger than you. And we're all born into sin. But guess what? God is even bigger than that. He chose to send his son Jesus to die on the cross for our sins, so that for all of us who place our faith alone in Christ alone, we can be forgiven. So whatever you're facing today, I want you to understand that God is bigger, and he has a plan, and he wants to give you the strength to persevere through that situation. But at the same time, he wants to cause that worry that you have because you see that situation is bigger. He wants to transition that worry into worship as you see him as bigger.
Yeah, and this is always one of my favorite stories when you talk about how we as people, it's a daily choice, a situational choice, Scotty, because Joshua earlier in his ministry had stood against the peer pressure of 10 other people seeing a giant, seeing the giants versus seeing God. And early in his life, he saw God. He said, "Hey, yep. What they're saying is right. It's a bunch of big people over there, but God's promise is that it's flowing with milk and honey, and He said it's ours. So we're going in." And then later on, he finds himself in a situation where he needs to be believing what he was telling Moses to believe, and he needs to be encouraged. So that's why it's important to keep God in your life and keep the right people in your life to remind you of what you're doing for us today, to remind us that God is bigger, because sometimes, even though we have and we know and we've been there, it still can get overwhelming at times. So that's what I love about the fellowship.
PrintTechLuca.com. Give me a message on my on that site, and it'll come straight to my.
Scotty, hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
Each and every week, and this is in the Martin Houston Show. I'm Joe Gaither. That's Martin Houston. Coming up next, we'll be kicking off with Inside the Locker Room. Roll Tide.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9.